Hello there, this is ETV Special Edition and I'm Sintayo Tamrat with this edition. Agriculture continues to be the pillar of Ethiopian economy. Factors like climate change and variability, technologies, and also investment. And this special edition will focus on how to maximize agricultural production and productivity, and also the Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute's role in maximizing agricultural production and productivity, and also alleviating the challenges the sector is facing. And my guest today is Dr. Mandafro Nuguse, who is CEO of Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute. I thank you so much for staying with us. To stay tuned. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Mandafro.
Thank you, Sintayo.
So, as we mentioned earlier, just agriculture continues to be the pillar of Ethiopia's economy, and just we'll talk more about how to maximize agricultural production and productivity. So, in this regard, my first point would be one of the main challenges Ethiopia, like most developing countries, face is continuous food price rising. So, how can we, as a nation, avert this situation?
Yes, the price escalation can be related to two major factors. One is a local, second one is global. So from the local point of view, price can be related with supply, and we need to produce more than what we are currently producing. The other side of production is marketing. So we need to control illegal trade as well in order to really utilize what is produced within Ethiopia to remain within Ethiopia unless it is a legal trade. So maximizing production can be from two fronts, or it can be a combination of the two, or a hybrid of the two. One is to intensify, which means to utilize research results to increase productivity and production when we take it to a larger scale. Second one is expansion, which means we need to include more land to production system. The third category is producing more than once on the same land, which means producing agricultural commodities using irrigation. So when you produce utilizing irrigation, it means from the same land you can produce twice a year or 3 times a year. So these three major areas can help us increase production in terms of volume, then that can lower the price of commodities. So those are the two factors that we would like to take into consideration when it is very much related to pricing. Again, illegal trade, what is produced within the country, when it is taken illegally to other countries, then that can escalate the price of agricultural commodities. That needs to be regulated, or the export should be a legal export than illegal trade. So we need to work on production, and we need to work also on the marketing side of the agriculture production.
Would you just share us your take on Ethiopia's efforts towards ensuring food security and nutrition security?
So food security at a national level and subnational level, at household level. So when you look at the total volume of production within the country, taking the statistical service, Ethiopian Statistical Service data, the total production is enough for the total population. But when you consider the household level, or a subnational level, or a community-based level food security, that's where the challenge comes. Specifically, areas that do have less rainfall or suboptimal water provision, drought-affected areas are those areas or those communities living in those areas are food insecure in most cases. So food security at a household level is our target. Not only food security, but also food and nutrition security. So we are talking about nutritious and healthy food for all by 2030 is our goal. In order to achieve that goal, we need to produce in terms of quantity, a huge quantity, enough for the country, enough for regional, state level, zonal, warada, up to household level. So when you have excess production in some parts of the country and deficit in some other parts of the country, then it becomes, a trade issue. It's about redistributing, or a local markets and marketing system is what ensures food security, especially on a deficit, food deficit areas. The second aspect of food security to be ensured in those drought-affected areas is to utilize surface and groundwater for irrigation. Those areas do have fertile land. The only limitation is water. So if we take water as a central point of development and invest on water accessibility for irrigation, for sanitation, and multiple purpose of water, then food security would not be an issue even in the drought affected areas where we have underground water and where we also have surface water. Considering the current geographic setup, drought affected areas are in the extreme south and in the extreme east. And again, those are potential areas when it comes to groundwater as well as surface water. Our rivers are flowing to those areas. For example, Awash is flowing from west all the way to east. So, which means it's about investing on irrigation to cultivate the lowland areas of the eastern part of the country. Similarly, in the southwest, if you invest on irrigation, then food security will not be an issue for those communities. So it's about investment and utilizing the associated technology, either water or agricultural technologies that can give us maximum yield and quality yield, and then addressing the population on a competitive price is a major step forward to ensure food security at a household level, or at least at the community level.
Dr. Mandafro, what role is the institution you are leading, the Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute, is playing in order to ensure the country's food security and nutrition security aspirations?
So currently we operate in 4 areas. One is, what are the critical challenges that are blocking our agricultural development is something we study and make a recommendation. So in this case, the systemic bottlenecks along the entire value chain of agricultural commodities is studied, and then we have a recommendation, and those recommendations to be practiced or to be implemented by various implementing institutions. Secondly, we pilot innovations like the agricultural commercialization cluster, where smallholder farmers do have small plots of about a hectare size. Then if a particular farmer is using the agricultural recommendation of the research system, and another farmer is using 50% of that, some other farmers don't use even agricultural recommendation, then you see an oscillation in terms of yield. Bringing those farmers and putting them into a cluster and providing them mechanization for land preparation and utilizing a full package of research recommendation that can significantly boost production and productivity per unit area. Then that is our role, organizing farmers into a cluster and providing the necessary support so that farmers can produce marketable surplus, not just even for themselves. There should be, sufficient enough to go to the market. So, market-oriented production system is what we promote, and utilization of agricultural research result is what we promote, and some innovative way of running agriculture as business. So mechanization is one area, and seed production within the cluster farming is another area, and again organizing farmers to provide agricultural inputs at a local level, and we call it one-stop shops. And these are another area, and these are most of the Transformation Institute is running. So that being on the production side, there are also improvement needed on the policy side, on the strategy side. We're also supporting the Ministry of Agriculture to revise the current policies and strategies at a higher level and as well as at a lower level. So when those policies are revised and implemented, it can attract more investment from outside and more investment even from inside Ethiopia. And then an additional investment on the agriculture sector can give us an opportunity to get more production and higher productivity that can go to the central market, that can go to international market as export, or those produce go to the agriculture processing plants like the integrated agricultural industries. So those parks are also utilizing agricultural materials as a role. For example, we have cluster farmers producing avocados, supplying Yergalam agro industry, and we have farmers organized into cluster producing malt barley, supplying malt factory. We have also farmers organized into cluster producing soybean, supplying edible oil processing plants with raw materials. So we play a significant role in terms of identifying issues on the sector, and we pilot that together with implementing entities, willing the different actors along the value chain so that the value chain alliances can easily get the produce. You increase the production, and the volume of increased production has to go to either international market, local market, or to a processing plant, and link what is processed to supermarkets, and then consumers will get access to improved, nutritious, and healthy food. So that is our role in brief.
So you have been just mentioning that you have been doing some researches which are invaluable to the policy making in the agriculture sector. So in this regard, just could you give me some showcases which show that the ATI's effort is toward this making some sort of links or strengthening the links between the agri-sector and just farming and other sectors of the economy?
Yes, we have many good examples. For example, digitizing the market information system is something that we work with Ministry of Trade and Regional Integration. And the examples of cluster farmers producing various commodities to go to the industry is what we work with Ministry of Industry. And implementation support that we are providing, research, extension, as well as cooperative, is something we work with Ministry of Agriculture, Institute of Agricultural Research, and the Ethiopian Cooperative Commission. So we are also working with Investment Commission, Ethiopian Investment Commission. So what we are doing in there is we identify investment areas, and we have currently like 14 exports higher and secondary to them. So they are working on investment opportunities. When investors come, they have a ready-made document to go to exactly to the investment areas. So these are some of the links. We work with Investment Commission, we work with Ministry of Irrigation, we work with Ministry of Agriculture, Trade and Regional Integration, as well as with Ministry of Industry.
Well, that's nice. And would you just tell us Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute's contribution or efforts, let me say, in modernizing the agri-sector in Ethiopia?
Yeah, so modernization begins with land consolidation, and the consolidated land to use mechanization is another modernization. So having aggregation point, a warehousing system, and we also provide a roadside market sheds. And we are also organizing one-stop shops, mechanization service centers, and supporting seed producers. So these are all integrated and interrelated to boost productivity, to modernize our agriculture. Another area of modernization is digitizing what we are doing. So the digital agriculture wing of our extension and advisory service, we call it AT28, and we have also 6077 National Market Information System. These are digital services that can help modernize what farmers are doing, what traders are doing, and connecting all these entities on a digital platform. And going forward, we are also trying to digitize the entire agriculture sector. So what does that mean? Everything we do will be on a digital platform, and we connect all the actors along the value chain using digital means that can enhance productivity, that can enhance trade, that can enhance information flow. Then by doing that, farmers can get better price and the consumers can get commodities with less prices. So what digital mechanisms can do to benefit the society can also be applied to digital agriculture to benefit the producer as well as the consumer, and in the middle you have the trader to really depend on information flow.
So as I mentioned earlier, agriculture continues to be the pillar of Ethiopian economy. And do you think that there are sound policy frameworks and drivers to maximize production and productivity so that the sector can help narrow the trade deficit, focusing on diversifying the export trade, just agricultural exportable production?
Yes, so the revised agricultural rural development policy has several policy agendas. Just to mention two of them, one is related to the engagement of private sector in the entire value chain. So what is the benefit of engaging private sector? So when we engage private sector, the current limitation of services being provided by the public sector can be offset when we engage private sector in areas where the activity or the engagement is business. And the role of the government in this particular case to remain on regulation and deregulation. So on the governance side, we want the public sector to play a significant role. On the business side, we want the private sector to play a significant role. And this one requires a huge change in our policy and in our strategy, which means, when I talk about policy, it is associated with policy instruments like the proclamation, the regulation, and the directives. So those are, that is one agenda item, engagement of private sector. Second agenda item in terms of changes in our policy is access to finance. So when we organize farmers into cluster, they need inputs like fertilizer, seed, and agrochemical. And these inputs all farmers might not have cash at hand during the planting season. In that case, access to finance is a requirement. So establishing or not about tightening, but it's about losing the current criteria to access credit from the commercial bank is critical. Secondly, the current commercial banks are very much linked to cities and towns, and very much focused on areas of business that are of short duration. Agriculture, by its very nature, is a lengthy process, and it requires a long-term credit, a long-term loan. For that to happen, we need a special setup for the agriculture sector, so that farmers, as well as even private sector, to access finance to run their business. So agriculture definitely is an area where you can get maximum profit, but it requires a maximum investment at the initial stage. For example, if you want to invest on irrigation is an expensive area, so an initial cost is very high, but the return per unit investment is so high. So agriculture requires a special arrangement in terms of access to finance. Secondly, agriculture, like any other commodity or like any other property, requires insurance. So we need to have access to finance for insurance. Well, agricultural insurance is also a critical that we introduced into the new policy arena. So the changes in the policy, there are 10 major changes or major agendas, and there are sub-agendas that do require new proclamation, new regulation, new directives.
So the transformation you have just mentioned from agriculture to industrialization, as well as the maximization of production and agricultural production and productivity, this both needs engagement of the private sector. Then how open is the sector for engaging the private sector? And also how conducive is the Ethiopian agriculture sector to engage more private sector?
Private sector engagement in principle and in terms of policy, it's already there. But in practice, there are hassles related to engaging private sector where the policy change is not supported or is not followed by a system change, a bureaucracy change. So engaging private sector in policy, it is there. In practice, we're not incentivizing private sector to really engage and contribute to our economy, where we can take agriculture towards industry, or we would like to go for structural transformation. So incentivizing private sector is still at a very young stage. So we need to incentivize private sector engagement in everything we do, not just on agriculture alone. So when you take agriculture, even agriculture in the rural area, an area where you don't have infrastructure, an area where you don't have warehousing, and so on. So what we would like to see in the agricultural transformation is from subsistence oriented to commercial orientation is a production system, which means there is a marketable surplus. When you have surplus, you need storage structure. Instead of building yet hotel after hotel, if investors are investing really on warehousing in the rural area, that's a huge so investing on warehouse of engagement for private sector. Secondly, on processing and packaging and making our agricultural commodity to be competent enough to international market. So it's not just the volume of what you are producing, it's the quality that you are producing can help you get into international market. And a third factor is the price. We have to be competitive enough in terms of price. If the local price is higher than the price worldwide, then we're not competitive enough. So produce in bulk, produce quality with less price is what we should promote. So in order for us to get these three key elements to be a very good competitor in the international market requires a little bit of time, a little bit of investment, and incentivizing private sector engaging in production, processing, and trading. So that is very important. When we do this, we can be a very good competitor in the international market. We have a potential because we have land to be cultivated. We have huge water resources that can help us produce twice or three times a year, and we have very productive workforces.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mandafrot Nuguse, for explaining the Ethiopian agricultural sector challenges and also the ways forward, particularly on maximizing agricultural production and productivity. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me in this interview.
Thank you so much for joining me, and this is ETV Special Edition. I'm Sentayo Tamrat with this edition. I've brought to you Dr. Mandafrot Nuguse, who is CEO of Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute, and he has just told us more on the production and productivity maximization in the Ethiopian agricultural sector and the bottlenecks as well as the ways out, and also the ATI's role in contributing to the Ethiopian agricultural sector. Thank you so much for joining me again. See you another time.